Welcome to the Catholic Forge, a conversational podcast where we gather to explore our Catholic faith and discuss how it forms our lives. All are welcome to join in this conversation and journey. Thank you for listening. Hey everyone, welcome to the show. This is Eric in West Virginia.
This is John in the frozen tundra of Illinois.
And this is Ben in Kentucky.
Come on. The ground is not totally frozen yet. You haven't entered into the permafrost, quite yet.
He stands a better chance than we do, though.
Yeah, I'm there. It's there. We've had a wonderfully warm fall, and all of a sudden it's below freezing. It's just shocking.
Oh my gosh, I know we're gonna be in the teens this weekend, and so
Wow.
we had a kind of a freak 3-inch snowfall like 4 weeks ago in November.
Really?
Very uncommon. Last year there wasn't a flake before New Year's, so maybe we'll get a white Christmas. Maybe maybe not. We'll see. And that's apropos. That's apropos for this episode of the Catholic Forge, considering Advent and Christmas. Before we dive in, one quick announcement. This will be, at least we think this will be, our final episode for 2016. We don't like
so.
we don't like to timestamp things necessarily, so that they have better quality and value when you listen back to them. But just in case this is our last one, thanks for a great 2016. For 2017, we'd like to start off the year by engaging with the community and hearing what you would like to hear from us. And so, around the time that this episode goes live, go over to facebook.com/The Catholic Forge, or log into Facebook and search for The Catholic Forge, and you'll find on our page a poll, a straw poll, or whatever they're called, and we will have 7 topics listed of our choosing, and you are able to vote for one of these 7 topics. The top 4 topics will be the first 4 topics in 2017, and we'll take them in order of whichever gets the most votes. And so again, if you'd like to participate, and we really want you to, please go to facebook.com/The Catholic Forge, or search on Facebook for The Catholic Forge, and go and cast your vote for what topics we ought to do in 2017. Any suggestions for topics here, fellas? Anything that we should definitely put on the list?
John's awesomeness, I think, would be one that we've all talked about quite a bit.
It'd be a very brief episode, but yeah, we barely get out of the intro and then we'd be done. But
I heard that.
My
It has to get the
I meant to
votes.
turn the mic off. Okay. I don't know what I think. There's a lot. There's a lot that we have pondered together, considering. So we'll see. Check that out around the time that you hear this episode. To the topic at hand, Advent and Christmas. It was Thanksgiving Day in the Thompson/Bachman-Johnson household. Our house, but the in-laws were over having once again that marvelous brined turkey. You want the recipe? CatholicForge@gmail.com. And we had all sort of what's the chemical in the turkey called? Tryptophan?
Tryptophan?
Yeah.
And is it true that it makes you sleepy, or is that just a folk legend? I don't know.
I think it is
I
true,
believe it really does.
but turkey's not the only thing that has it. It's in a lot of stuff, but it is true.
Okay. Well, anyway, we had drank deep of the tryptophan fountain, and we were kind of chilling out. And one of the family members suggested we watch a film. Wonderful, of course. Maybe we can play a movie at the same time. And they suggested the film It's a Wonderful Life. And I popped my head in from the kitchen there and kind of put my foot down a little bit. I said, no, we're not going to watch that. It is not even, these are my exact words. It is not even the first Sunday of Advent.
On Thanksgiving Day,
On
Eric.
Thanksgiving Day, I might as well have ripped baby Jesus out of the creche. But I said no, and there was no fight, and we ended up going on to do whatever we did for the evening. I think we just all fell asleep. I don't know what it was, but that to me, simple as the story is, is a representation of what many people are feeling during this time, this contest, this boxing match between culture, Advent, the church, the big air quotes, the Christmas spirit, all of these contending forces trying to get our attention during this time of year, during the holidays. And so for this episode, we're going to break that apart a little bit and see what the church has to say and kind of look at our own perspectives and also talk about what we do in our own homes. How do we preserve Advent, but really encourage a participation for the Nativity, for the birth of our Lord? So who would like to stand under the mistletoe first, as it were?
It is noteworthy
With
that
you?
Eric also rescinded the invitation to the Pilgrims for their Thanksgiving. So
That's
he
no.
is Ebenezer Scrooge incarnate and is always out to destroy our love. It's an interesting thing because I wouldn't have had the same experience that Eric had with watching A Wonderful Life on Thanksgiving, but I do have that same, and I think many Americans do too, annoyance when it's not even Halloween and I go into the store I see Santa Claus and the Christmas ornaments out right next to the skeletons and the zombies. It's just like, what's going on?
Yeah.
So I can identify a little bit with what you're saying. I had never thought about it quite like you're saying about it, kind of taking the liturgical calendar, Advent, and saying that's when we should begin in our personal lives at home. And so that's kind of a unique idea. I think that it struck Ben too when we were talking.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of torn because I'm right there with your in-laws. I'm a convert. This is only my 8th Christmas as a Catholic, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And in my family growing up, non-Catholic household, I mean, the whole Christmas season started with the day after Thanksgiving.
Right.
And it was really common for us to get into watching Christmas movies on Thanksgiving night or the day after. And now as I get further into this Catholic life and I learn more about Advent, I'm kind of like, okay, should I be watching a Christmas movie on Thanksgiving night? Is that, do I want to hold off a little bit? And so it's this season, especially my wife and I put more thought into it, and it's kind of been confusing for us,
I think it's noteworthy as we're talking about this. Some people may be shocked by this discussion, but I think it's noteworthy to point out within the liturgical season, which is the way in which the church celebrates the season. There's a distinction. There's the season of Advent, which we are presently in, and it goes from, it's the first 4 Sundays before Christmas. And it is a preparatory time, a time of penance, a time of preparing our hearts to receive the Messiah. We're recalling the longing, the waiting that the Jews had for the promised Messiah to come. And so we are experiencing that time of waiting and waiting in anticipation. And then Christmas, the season of Christmas, this is what's contrary to our culture, doesn't begin until we have the Christmas Eve, and we begin the celebration, and then it goes all the way through until the Epiphany and the baptism of the Lord, which is in early January. So Christmas season, in a sense of worship, is actually from Christmas until the 2nd or 3rd week in January.
Yeah.
That's where this disconnect kind of comes between what our culture's doing and what we're doing in our worship.
The expansion of the holiday sentiment can also be seen, and this is a silly example, but it's certainly apropos in the I don't know. I want to think of a fancy word to use. There's a lot of pumpkin spice. Okay, I mean that's the easiest way to say it.
You got to make your own pumpkin spice. Do not use the pre-made stuff. If you want a good pumpkin recipe, the Catholic Forge @gmail.com.
This is turning into a cooking show.
Your
Turkeys,
source
pumpkins
for holiday recipes.
That could be one of our topics up for debate. The best recipes that we have.
Oh, that'd be wonderful. But I made some wonderful pumpkin spice pancakes. Tori will attest to that. They're wonderful. But and so that's more joking. Like that has little to do with the spirit of things. But you can see that companies are pushing that earlier and earlier. As soon as the first leaf in Alaska turns orange, then boom, pumpkin spice is in the lower 48, because they know that we associate, pumpkin and squash and those allspice and clove and all of that, those flavors with the holidays and with Christmas. And so they're preying on that. Companies are preying on that sensitivity more and more. It's not that pumpkin spice is really all that good, but it is. But that capitalism and materialism is expanding outward. Bigger profits, better profits. I was at that conference in Charleston, and we had a call that night. I jumped on the call with you guys, and I had just been at Toys R Us, and it was like in the first or second week of November, and I went to Toys R Us, and they had Christmas music playing. There wasn't barely any Christmas stuff in the store, but the music was blowing through their sound system, and
reminding parents, buy toys, it's coming.
Yeah.
It's
that
coming.
was what it made me anxious a little bit. I was like, and I was texting Tori like, do we need to get this massive penguin for Hannah?
There's
I was
no
like,
time.
I was like, what's wrong with me? Like, what's happening? And so there's this mania around the holidays, and that's why it's a Hallmark sentiment, but that's why we do sort of want to hearken to that sense of there is a reason for the season, and Christmas has a spirit, and the spirit was made man in a little baby in Jesus, and so that we say it like that, and it sounds like a Hallmark card, really sweet. But it can be so easily lost, when these things come into the forefront. Especially, Hannah is already starting to say that she's looking forward to getting presents at Christmas, And Tori and I have been careful to tell her, Christmas is about celebrating Jesus. And she's like, oh, yeah, celebrate Jesus at Christmas with presents.
Yeah. I hate to say it.
I was like, that's fair enough.
To a 3-year-old, because we have the same problem with Evie, who's 4. You just can't get Jesus to compete with presents in that little mind just yet. You can try. Yeah. You can start laying that foundation so that it will be there when they can grasp it. But man, presents are pretty fun, and that's what they're going to think about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they don't need to be in competition. I mean, tying, that's a successful thing to tie that, what you're saying there, Eric, to tie. Mm-hmm. Presents to, we're celebrating the birth of Jesus. Mm-hmm. We're going to go all out and we're going to get toys. There's nothing wrong with tying some mm-hmm. of those together as long as it's in balance, that excitement, like we would celebrate the birth of our other children, so there's nothing wrong with tying that together. Despite my displeasure with saying this, Eric actually might have somewhat of a point. I can recall there was
I did it. Episode 8.
Episode 8, Eric had one.
I made it. I did it.
One possible point.
I've arrived.
But we here in, and I'm sure you probably have it where you are too. We have these stations that right around Thanksgiving they start playing Christmas, and it's Christmas all. Well, the music they play is Christmas songs.
Sure.
And I can remember as a child, it was like the day after Christmas, or maybe even Christmas Day. There was a commercial for the radio station, and a Christmas tune started playing, and they took the radio, they threw it out a window, and they followed it down to the sidewalk, and the radio exploded and said, now that that's over, let's get back to real music. And I remember thinking that was delightfully funny at the time. Mm-hmm. But it is curious in that here we have this culture that we've started Christmas so early that then the day or the day after that it arrives, we're done with it. Yeah. And there's no real celebration then. It's all anticipation, mm-hmm. and then it's done. There's no actual celebration of the incarnation, mm-hmm. that God became one of us, and so we lose that. We're just in that anticipatory element of Christmas, but by having extended that so long, we've lost the relishing the moment, being present to the awesomeness of God becoming one of us. Mm. So a little point to Eric on it, and his
well done
check mark for him. He has a point.
Well,
but he's crazy for not letting them watch White Christmas. On that, he's just
it was a wonderful life. A White Christmas, that would have merited ejection from my home. So you can enjoy the rest of your Thanksgiving at the Motel 6. Thank you. But
sorry, it wasn't a White Christmas. It was
it's a wonderful life. It's okay.
Sorry.
Oh, Clarence. No, I remember. I'm sad to say. say, but I was a child. But I remember, on Christmas Day, we were at my grandparents. We typically went to my mom's parents, grandma and grandpa in Corvallis, Oregon. And I remember one Christmas, we opened all these gifts and we were sitting around. And I remember that feeling after everything had been opened of this like disappointment, this like emptiness, that like everything had been opened and I had all these dope new toys to play with and everything. And I remember my grandma or my grandpa or someone asking me like, Eric, are you disappointed with what you got? And I was like, no, but I felt an emptiness there, like Christmas had ended because I had opened the last parcel, and I feel a little ashamed, but I really shouldn't because I was just a child. But looking at it now, could I feel the same way a little bit? Like after Christmas Day is done, and all the celebrations have ended, do I really keep that in my head that this worship of the Messiah goes on, certainly through the Christmas season, but on forever? I think that's something I need to foster in myself a little bit better, and Advent is the time to do so.
Yeah, and it's a good warning for us as parents too. Is what is the priority that we set up for our children? Is the anticipation of presents, or is it the anticipation of Christ?
Yeah.
And so there's that line there that we've already kind of broached.
Sure.
But what about in your homes? So Eric, we know that you've got this anti-Christmas regime going on in your house. Ben, what's your place? What are the actual practices that you do in your home during the season of Advent? So before the actual liturgical season of Christmas.
Yeah, like I said, we're still kind of working that out as and with kids now, it changes things a lot as far as what you want to do that might be fun. And this is our second year doing a Jesse tree, with now that Evie's old enough to kind of enjoy it. And that's been fun. Placing the ornaments, for anyone who doesn't know, a Jesse tree in a nutshell is kind of the story of salvation history. It's tying Christmas all the way back to Genesis, to Adam and Eve.
Mm-hmm.
And so they'll have some Jesse trees, you can do it a lot of different ways. Some start on December 1st, some start the first day of Advent, maybe a day or two before. And so you'll have, 20, 23, 25 ornaments that tell this story. So then each day of Advent, you can kind of, what we do, we kind of sit down with Evie and there'll be the Bible reading that's associated with that ornament. And then you hang it on the tree, which we've got like little twigs sticking out of a mason jar. It's nothing fancy. You can, like I said, there's a million ways to do a Jesse tree, but it's a little over her head, and she's 4. So the whole salvation history picture is a little over her head, but still it's laying that foundation so that she at least scratches the surface that this miraculous thing of Christmas and Jesus being born is actually the fulfillment of a promise that started a long time back. And we can look at this tree and actually see how we've been tracing that all the way back, during Advent. So that's been pretty fun. It's something that we've trying to bring a little more of the church liturgical year into it and a little less of the department store music that's been playing for 3 months already.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm going to anyway, Ben, but only because I was the genesis, so to speak, of the idea, kind of. But when I was with you in Kentucky, we inaugurated the Advent devotional, that big monstrous thing. And since we've left, I know that some there at the parish have continued it. I mean, do you use that at all? I mean, I'm just curious.
Yeah, they still got that going, which has been really cool. Yeah, so our parish, like Eric's saying, a big booklet for kids. Actually, I don't know if you knew this, Eric. This year they also printed just kind of like the adult version. It's the size of a regular book, and it skips all the kids' activities and word
just the
searches.
devotional. Yeah,
yeah, it's just the text, but yeah, it's big. Placemat shaped, really, wasn't that kind
by
of the
17?
Idea? Yeah. So it kind of looks like the size of a placemat, and it's got the daily devotional, daily readings, Advent traditions, kind of nuggets from history of how this got started, that got started, and then it has something like a coloring, somebody for the kids to color, or a word search, or that kind of thing. But yeah, that's been something too. Just anything that kind of takes a minute takes your brain out of your day and refocuses it, to remember, oh yeah, we are moving towards something. We are waiting for something. Because if you just leave it to your daily life, you're not going to get that, with the regular store stuff.
That's what I was going to suggest, from what we are doing or trying to do. We have a few candles, just 4 candles, 3 purple and 1 kind of pink, I guess. Rose. Thank you, John, very much. Yeah, and we light those, as the weeks go on, and there's a little statue of Mary there, and a kind of a neat little. I don't know. I mean, it's. I mean, I think now that I think about it, I think that Hannah put it up there. Now that I think about why it's there, I think that Hannah took it from her little playmate nativity scene. It was the little Jesus in the crib. I think she somehow climbed up there and put it next to the because it's fine. Hey, it's okay. But it's kind of off to the side, like Jesus is still coming. He's still gestating. So she's very clever. I appreciate that. Good job, Hannah. But we do that, and then the other day I woke up. And Tori was up with the kids already, and she built this playlist on Spotify of Advent music. And so I was hearing Tony Alonso and Marty Haugen in my living room, and I was like, "What's happening?" And I came out there, and it was "Come Thou Long Expected Jesus," and "O Come Emmanuel," and "People Look East," and "Creator of the Stars of Night," and all these Advent hymns, which totally just disappear after Christmas Day. So that was nice. It's not nearly as festive as Jingle Bell Rock, but it's very beautiful music, and really the text is where is the quality of that family of hymnody. So it was cool that she's listening to that. And then I asked that question about the devotional because I was thinking, I wish that we had something like that here. And our friend Mary Lou, she actually emailed me the PDF, but I didn't print it out. Although I should, but I know what's wrong with it. I want to say paper, John. I don't know why you got to look at me like that. Anyway, John, what do you do with your brood?
I was thinking about this as we began the conversation. In terms of like lights and trees, and when they go up, it's usually based on kind of convenience. When I have some time,
Sure.
and being just south of the Arctic Circle, I have to get my lights up outside on a day that's appropriate, and we start turning those lights on early. But we do a number of things. Like we always have an Advent wreath. That we light at our meal times, and before we begin, my wife whips out the guitar, and we all sing "Come, O Come, Emmanuel" every dinner, and we spend some time thinking about that. And then also during Advent, being a penitential season of preparation, we give something up. So we encourage each of our kids to pick something to give up. And so my son gave up the Wii this year, which was pretty, the oldest son.
Wow.
My daughter, Maria, she gave up her blankie and animal pillow, her sleeping things.
No.
And then my youngest son, he gave up gum. He tried giving up peas before that, but I wouldn't let that one go. So, so they all give up something. And then we also... when we're doing our prayers, we say prayers every morning and every evening. Mm-hmm. We all have picked Advent prayer partners. So there are people that we specifically pray for during the season of Advent, just as a way to pray for them. So those are kind of some of the things that we do. We do play Christmas music in the house, though. And like I said, with the tree decoration and stuff like that is often more of a matter of convenience. But this year we set up the tree, and there are no ornaments on it, and we're going to start putting those ornaments on as we get closer to try to give that sense of anticipation. I don't know that we would do that every year, nor could I say that was a tradition, but that's how we kind of panned it out this year. And actually that came from as kind of a fruit of our conversation last week and before, as we kind of started contemplating this, is, well, what are we doing? So we took a few steps back and said, let's make some conscious choices in how we are celebrating the season at home.
Yeah.
Not to be strict like Eric, but to pick up some of the benefits of his 1 point of wisdom in 8 times together.
Just to be clear, I put up Christmas lights in Hannah's bedroom tonight because she won't stop talking about them, okay? So I don't want to hear any more of this nonsense that I'm some sort of a Grinch Scrooge specter, okay?
Now, after you put those up, did you write a letter to the Vatican requesting your own excommunication?
No. I just told her. I said, Hannah.
Ben and I will file the paperwork as soon as we're done here.
I said, Hannah, we are offending the Christ child, but if it makes you sleep better, then so be it.
She said, I
For
can live
those
with
of
that.
you who do not know Eric well enough, he is being sarcastic at the moment, so he doesn't really mean that. What about the Santa dilemma? This is something that actually my wife and I did spend a lot of time. Have you guys struggled with this?
Yes.
The idea of if you got your kids listening and we're going to be talking about Santa, it might be time to turn it down.
Spoilers.
If we might
ahead.
say something.
Yeah.
Give any spoiler alerts. But this was actually something that I did not want to do Santa. Early on, before we had children, I don't know how it came up. I remember saying to my wife, I don't want to do Santa. I don't want to make it about something that it's not. And I don't want to lie to my kids. I actually really felt that way. And so Cecilia was a little more open to the idea. And our kids have heard about Santa, but I never promote the concept of Santa except for the real saint, you know?
Right.
But this idea of this person coming down your chimney, giving you presents, I never enter into that dialogue. When my kids ask me about it, I just either don't respond or I say, well, we're celebrating Jesus' birthday, so we're going to give gifts. And like our gifts, when they give them to kids, they're underneath the tree, there are no signs that say from Santa. It's like, here are gifts to celebrate Jesus. And so I never do anything I'm not anti-Santa with the kids, but I don't do anything to promote that in our house. I'm not sure what my hang up is.
No,
I don't know. There's something that bothers me about the idea of the lie.
I get where you're coming from, because when Evie was born, you know, she's our first, and those are the things that when you're expecting your first child, you don't think about Santa and how am I going to handle this? But then, we still didn't worry about it when she was 2, because let's face it, 2-year-olds, you know, they're there.
More interested in eating the Christmas ornaments.
Yeah, they're eating the lights and stuff. But last year was the first year when she was 3 that we had like a parental meeting, me and Alice, and we're like, okay, we gotta get our story lined out here. What angle are we gonna take on this? Because whatever we start to say might actually stick. And luckily, like you, we kind of skirted around it, because Alice, she doesn't remember how her parents did this, but she worded it as, we always did Santa, you know, they had presents under the tree from Santa, but she said, but I always knew it wasn't real. It was never a serious thing. You know, she was never made to believe like, yeah, this guy's actually coming into your house at night and doing this. So we don't know how her parents pulled that off of doing the fun of it, but at the same time, and she grew up in a very Christian household. Her dad's a pastor, and so I don't know how they did that. It's kind of cool that they had the fun without the lie, like you said. But so we agonized over it, and this year, I kind of stole this from a Catholic blogger that Alice likes a lot. Kind of just going heavy on the St. Nicholas end of it.
Sure.
Trying to keep the magical element of it, because there's something to that magic, and I actually felt convicted that I was being too Scrooge-like when I read G.K. Chesterton's defense of Santa Claus and the magic behind it. Yeah. And I was like, well, if it's good enough for Chesterton, who am I to?
Yeah.
Sure.
Who are we to argue?
I mean, for me, at least for Hannah, Daniel's certainly too old to, you know, he barely knows when the door's open. I mean, he's just a little baby.
Right.
But Hannah, she has no concept of him as a folk legend or a tall tale, you know, a myth. The presence and all that. She knows what he looks like, and she knows like in this one book that she got from the library, he's sledding down the hill with penguins. I mean, that's about as far as we are. So we haven't had to deal with that issue of, you know, do we put the letter out in the morning from Santa? Do we set the cookies out at Christmas Eve? You know, all that. For me, at least, I find I still love Santa. Okay, I'll say it. I have no shame.
Yeah.
Last year, the year before, I was walking through the store, and there in the soda pop, whatever it's called in your part of the country, in the cola aisle, were the limited edition run of the Coca-Cola bottles, and there's that, you know, it must be from the 20s or the 30s, maybe 40s, that, you know, Norman Rockwell painting of Santa on there, and not only because I love Coca-Cola, but because it just has such memories for me from my childhood. I looked at the pop, and I felt in my heart my love for Santa Claus. I love him. I love Santa. It's true. Almost as much as I love room temperature Diet Coke, John. Now,
yes, he does.
Holy smokes. But over time, that love has changed, and I don't love. I mean, like I enjoy the memories of being excited for him to come down the chimney and deliver the gifts and all that. Those are fun. But what I love is the spirit of his person. And whether or not his spirit actually exists, or it's just, the sense of it in my heart, but the sense of him being all good, even though technically he is his own judge, jury, and kind of executioner, dispensing justice to the children of the world. but that warm presence that he carries, and that he is a symbol of good for Christmas. And it makes me sad that he has been abused a little bit, that he's been thrown under the bus, and now he only delivers goods, and that
Right.
he's made to serve your wallet, and that he points you to your closest place with clearance sales and that kind of stuff. So I think I really cherish the myth of Santa Claus in my heart, and certainly learning more about Saint Nicholas, and then certainly becoming more aware of the spirit of Jesus as part of the Christmas celebration. I remember very clearly. At a parish I worked at, Santa was part of our Christmas Eve liturgy. It was about halfway
Yeah.
through the homily. There was no announcement. Okay, there were no jingle bells. There was definitely no ho ho ho. Santa would just walk in as Father was preaching. Walk in quietly, and of course it was a very wonderful moment, because you can hear all the kids in their pew grabbing their parents by the jacket. Mom, 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 it's Santa. They're trying not to lose it in the middle of church because they're so excited. And Santa, he has the bag over his shoulder, and he comes to the nativity scene, and he reaches into the bag, and he places a single solitary little gift right next to the manger, and Father's kind of standing right there watching this whole thing happen. They don't really speak to each other. Maybe Father said, "Oh, hi Santa, what are you doing here?" And Santa never speaks. He just kneels in front of the cradle, places the gift, bows his head for a moment, stands, and then leaves. Again, no jingle bells, no on dancer, none of that. Just an homage. And so for me, even further now, becoming an adult and learning more, and certainly in my heart, that references Jesus's lordship. That not only is he King of Kings, but all spirits, folk tales included, tall tales and folk legends bow to him. And especially, again, Santa, who represents another side of the Christmas season, this too must worship, at the cradle. And so I think, I guess I like what John is saying, where there's no need to hide, your children from Santa, or like put them in some bubble where Santa doesn't exist, but to cultivate that fascination and that curiosity, within the context of the real celebration. And so I like that, John, that at least the presents don't say from Santa, that that Santa can participate, but that he is not a key player per se.
Yeah. And I wouldn't want to take away I don't feel this. I don't want to take away my children's experience of that. I don't want to, but I do nothing to promote it. And the same thing is true with the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy and those things.
I draw the line with those jokers.
Yeah, we don't ever say the Easter Bunny's coming tonight. We say, put out your baskets tonight. We're gonna be celebrating the resurrection.
Yeah.
And I just there's something about, and we called it a lie earlier, and I wouldn't say that parents who are telling their children that there is a Santa are lying to their children. But there is something that bothers me about that too, and also when I as the person that's sharing faith with my children, being the primary educator of my children, I hate for them to look back and one day have Jesus fall into that category of mythical beings.
Sure.
Well, you
Right.
told me there was a Santa Claus, you told me there was an Easter Bunny, and now you told me there's a Jesus, and they all kind of go in that category.
It's just
together.
a doll in a cradle on the altar at church. How is? Yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah. That was our fear too when trying to figure this out. That was exactly, I think I said the exact same thing to Alice of, once they catch you in a big lie, what's to say that doesn't shake their trust in everything you've taught them,
Yeah.
But that's why I like St. Nicholas so much, because the actual St. Nicholas who lived and breathed, not a mythical folklore, like the modern commercial Santa, he's easy to tie into Jesus. He's easy to tie into Christmas.
He's a bishop.
Yeah, he gave because of the love that God had for him and that he had for God. And his giving and the legends of his giving are a celebration of God's love. It's a little harder to tie like I said, the modern commercial Santa. It's kind of like, how do you even come up with what's his motivation? If it's just this godless myth, like what is his motivation? Why even be so loving? You can't be that loving without God.
And in some ways, he's, of course, Santa Claus is based upon Saint Nicholas,
Right.
a real saint. So Santa Claus is a saint. Santa, is saint there. But in a secular world, Santa becomes almost a replacement for God as an arbitrator of morality.
Right.
And that, being naughty or nice, and even this elf on the shelf thing, like now we're in a, I don't take myself too serious in what I'm about to say, but we're now counting on fictitious little things that we put around our house to help help our children behave, instead of a deeper reason about wanting to honor God. And my kids are at 3 years old. I'm able to talk to them about wanting to do good because it honors Jesus, and they get it. They get it. They don't need to be told that there's an elf watching them or that Santa's watching them. They better be naughty or nice. Yeah. They can know that the reason that they should be good isn't because they don't want to get a lump of coal or they want to get a present, but because we want to honor God with our behavior. And as 3 and 4 year olds, they do get that. So I'm able to see that. So there's a danger there too, in that Santa Claus. And then when I stop believing in Santa Claus, it also puts morality a little bit into this quirky world of make-believe too. What's really going to happen if I don't be good? Is Santa not going to be? We see that regularly. Santa's not coming to you. We say to adults, there's all kinds of jokes on TV about that. So morality now also becomes a little bit of a joke. Now, I don't take myself too serious in what I'm saying there. I wouldn't go out preaching it, but there are hints of it that kind of just they irritate my sense, or my conscience there a little.
I remember being, between 7 and 11, and I was having a temper tantrum, and I remember vividly going into my room, and I was kicking a box full of Legos, and the Legos were flying all over the room. I don't know why I was mad. It doesn't ever matter. Maybe sometimes
his Diet Coke wasn't warm enough,
Mom. But I was having this tantrum and slammed the door and kicking the box of Legos, and out from the kitchen my mom sang, "He sees you when you're sleeping, he knows when you're awake," and it just made me more mad. How could you bring Santa into this, Mom? How dare you bring him into this? But you're right. But somewhere in my little brain, I thought, oh, have I offended thee, Santa?
I've really done it this time.
I didn't mean to. I didn't mean it, Santa. Whatever it was I was doing, I don't even know. But you're right that you don't want that to supersede even a sense of morality. Because again, if the kind of trying to dovetail, but to get back around into a circle, if the spirit of Christmas with a really small s begins so early on, that means that Santa's presence also begins early on. And when do parents start? I don't know I'm asking kind of rhetorically, but when do parents start telling their children, honey, Santa's watching,
Right.
And because they're already thinking ahead to what are we going to get our kid and what can we get out of if they're naughty. or whatever it is, you know.
That's Eric's.
That's
cursory
no.
line
I
there.
think last week after the call, we discussed, that we should just, fill boxes full of boxes. Or what was it, John? That you what did you say? Putting we're gonna sound like such awful dads, but it was genius. Putting
a toy they already have.
Yes.
Yeah, we do that a lot, especially with the younger kids, just taking things they already have and wrapping them up, because the delight is not it's just opening the present. You know, I mean, all of my gifts get opened by our whatever baby is the baby at that year that gets to open my presents, because it's just the delight of tearing the paper and sticking it in your mouth and putting it on their head. On that thing of morality, though, this is not Santa Claus's fault. I know that, but working with adults in faith formation, I do see that adults have a sense of morality that is very much this list of naughty or nice, checking a list, thing, where their status with God is, I've done 12 bad things and I've done 3 good things, I'm going to hell. Like that, it's this checklist instead of this process of opening and closing our heart to God and the disposition that we have to grace. Their understanding of morality is very infantile, and I don't think Santa Claus is at fault, but I think Santa Claus and that notion of morality is perpetuated, and it is a stumbling block for people. I think it is a tool for that idea. I've done too many bad things, God can't love me. And like I said, I don't blame Santa Claus, but I do think that this culture perpetuates that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well said. I agree with that. Eric, looks like you're going to say something there.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm kind of thinking of our landing strip here, to bring it together. But actually, many things that you both have said have reminded me. Of course, it's obvious that through time, through the concourse of history, the church has always, borrowed or stolen, just straight up ripped off cultural maxims, for her own use. And certainly, this time of year and all of the ancient celebrations and rituals, kind of becoming some of what the church has put together for Advent and Christmas, but also, for Easter as well. And so the church has always made creative use and pastoral use, hopefully, of cultural norms to celebrate sacred mystery. And I think that there is a sense that what we're pondering is how do we do that in our own homes? Because we don't want to just hit the eject button on everything, and
absolutely,
because then our kids are at school and everyone's like, why won't you eat the candy? Yeah, why won't you eat the candy cane? I will never eat the candy cane ever.
Well, the candy cane is a very
I knew
religious
you were going to
symbol.
say that. As soon as I said it, I was like, here comes John with the candy cane story. But
no, you're right on that.
I had to ask Ben if you've gotten into the candy cane Ghirardelli chips yet, or are you more pure than that?
No, I didn't know they existed.
Well, of course they exist. Come on, I mean, it's Ghirardelli. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I'm taking off my headphones and going to the store right now.
Thanks for joining us. But there's that process that the church has always been engaged in of not just, like I said, ejecting everything, but how do you work within what is already at hand? And I think that's maybe our, I don't know if it's my struggle, but that's our goal this Advent season, and moving forward, trying to instill in our children how to really have a fully conscious anticipation of the incarnation in the midst of all this stuff. And if I may, the ccc.usccb.org, here we go, paragraph number 824. That's from the Catechism. When the church celebrates the liturgy of Advent. Now, that's wonderful that she would even use this terminology. It's not just the season of Advent, but it's a liturgy. It's a work that we do together as Christian people, as expecting people. When the church celebrates the liturgy of Advent each year, she makes present this ancient expectancy of the Messiah. For by sharing in the long preparation for the Savior's first coming, the faithful, that's you and me, renew their ardent desire for his second coming. And this, of course, carries us well beyond Christmas Day, the Christmas season, beyond the liturgical calendar, beyond all calendars, into that end vision, And last week in our readings, we heard about that peaceful kingdom from Isaiah, where the Prince of Peace rules forevermore. And so in whatever efforts we make this Advent and Christmas, let that be our gaze to look even beyond the cradle and beyond the cross to the everlasting kingdom that is to come. That's our commonality. That's what we share. That's what we're working toward, at least as husbands and dads here. Try as we might, but great insights all around tonight. And so now I have to go talk with Tori and say, but the guy said this tonight, Tori. What do you think about that? I don't know. Maybe we
I'm
can't
just going to use John's ideas.
Maybe we can't watch a White Christmas. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know how I feel now, John. I mean, what's it called what's it called in the old days when they tied a sailor's hands and feet and they twisted him around the boat on the, what was that called?
Walking the plank? What are you talking about?
No. They drug him under the boat and then back up and around the side by a rope. What was that
back
called?
to the story of Christmas.
John gave me a good once over. Anyway, this has been the Catholic Forge. We really, really thank you for listening, and we'd like to close, as always, with a prayer and a blessing. May God the Father,
God the Son,
and God the Holy Spirit bless you, guard you, and lead you to eternal life. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you for listening to the Catholic Forge. We hope you've enjoyed this episode and will leave us a positive rating and review on iTunes, SoundCloud, or YouTube. Please continue the conversation with us on Facebook by searching for the Catholic Forge. Don't forget about that poll for the first 4 topics of 2017. We're looking for your input. And we're also on Twitter at Catholic Forge. To submit questions for our mailbag segment or to get in touch with us in general, you can reach us at thecatholicforge@gmail.com. And for more information regarding the podcast, visit our website at www.thecatholicforge.com. We especially thank our mirthful wives. Now, hold on. This is a real word, mirthful?
Yes, it is. Full of mirth.
They are full of mirth. It's true.
Who demonstrates mirth.
We thank our mirthful wives for their continued support of this podcast and project, and we thank you very much for listening.